In this podcast episode, host Francis discusses with Arthur Brooks, a Harvard professor and happiness expert, the complex nature of happiness and why so many young people are drawn to performative and sometimes extreme activism. They explore the distinctions between enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning, the role of suffering and pain, the influence of technology and social media on mental health and relational dynamics, and the cultural crisis surrounding identity and meaning. The conversation also touches on the role of religion, romantic love, and how risk-taking relates to a fulfilling life. Arthur Brooks begins by clarifying that happiness is often misunderstood as a constant emotional state or mere pleasure. Instead, he defines happiness as a balanced combination of enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Enjoyment involves positive experiences but should not be confused with fleeting pleasure. Satisfaction arises from meaningful struggle and accomplishments, where effort and hardship lend sweetness to success. Meaning, the deepest component, answers the why of our existence, encompassing coherence, purpose, and significance. Pursuing happiness directly often fails because people chase pleasure, which is a primal and transient urge linked to the brain's limbic system. Yet true enjoyment requires conscious engagement and memory. Brooks emphasizes the common misconception that enjoyment equals pleasure. Pleasure is a basic, often addictive sensation, like drugs or solitary indulgences such as pornography, that does not create lasting happiness. Enjoyment, on the other hand, is a socially and psychologically richer experience, such as sharing good times responsibly with others. He warns against confusing pleasure-seeking behaviors with genuine enjoyment and notes the dangers of solitary indulgence, which often leads to gloom or even rehabilitation. The role of shared experience, anticipation, and moderation is crucial in transforming pleasurable moments into true enjoyment. Satisfaction is portrayed as the joy emerging from achievements earned through effort, struggle, and sometimes pain. Brooks explains that humans uniquely value suffering because it provides contrast and meaning to accomplishments. The sweetness of success depends on sacrifice and patience. Gratification deferred builds deeper satisfaction. He warns against the arrival fallacy, the belief that happiness peaks once a goal is reached, noting that emotional highs are transient by design to keep us alert and striving. Cultivating satisfaction often involves adjusting desires to appreciate what one has, rather than continuously seeking more. Meaning is identified as the most critical but often missing element, especially among young people today. Brooks laments that modern technology, especially smartphone usage averaging over 200 times daily, limits engagement with the brain's right hemisphere, which processes mystery, love, and significance. This shift toward constant information and stimulation reduces introspection and the capacity to find meaning. Many youth seek meaning through activism, but often this takes the form of performative activism, participation designed more to feel alive amid numbness than to effect change. This meaning crisis speaks to the cultural challenges of a tech-saturated, distracted generation. Brooks discusses the role of religion in addressing the meaning crisis. Practicing religious individuals who embrace transcendence and metaphysical fitness often experience stronger senses of life's why. Religion provides answers to three core questions of meaning: why the world is as it is, why one acts as one does, and why one's life matters. These provide coherence, purpose, and significance. Despite anecdotal signs of some resurgence, especially within Catholicism, broader data shows ongoing disaffiliation among many, contributing to the uncertainty about meaning in modern society. Drawing on the philosophical tradition of Aquinas, Brooks introduces the concept of four idols that can mislead people: money, power, pleasure, and fame, or honor. Every individual has a dominant idol that, if unrecognized, leads to regret. Brooks shares an interactive exercise to determine one's idol, explaining how people often misjudge their own inclinations. He relates this to contemporary examples, including the addictive pursuit of pleasure or the dysfunctional desire for power, and notes how imbalanced prioritization of these idols distracts from genuine sources of happiness, like faith, family, and meaningful work. The conversation addresses why many young people engage in activism that appears ineffective. Brooks offers that much activism today is performative, not to others but to the self, providing a way to feel emotional intensity and meaning amid numbness. He points out that many youth have been conscripted into culture wars via victim identity politics, a toxic form of self-understanding that equates identity with grievance. This victim mentality exacerbates anxiety and depression and serves the interests of manipulative activist leaders who thrive on fear and division rather than empowerment or joy. Social media fosters constant social comparison, which undermines joy and contentment. Brooks cites studies that demonstrate people enjoy experiences less when they photograph or post them online, because the act shifts focus toward external validation rather than present enjoyment. More fundamentally, the constant engagement with digital information overloads the left hemisphere of the brain, suppressing engagement with deeper emotional and relational processes, thereby increasing sadness, anger, and anxiety. Brooks highlights emerging data showing differing patterns of mental illness and emotional expression between young men and women. Women tend to present sadness and anxiety, men more anger and hostility, with both groups experiencing significant mood disorders. Increasing loneliness and reduced relational bonds, like marriage and close friendships, particularly among men, raise concerns about social cohesion and happiness. The technology-driven culture disrupts traditional relational and romantic dynamics, leading to what Brooks calls the love depression, contributing to demographic declines and social fragmentation. Romantic love is identified as an existential concern underpinning happiness and fulfillment. Brooks stresses that love is a complex, unsolvable mystery of life that cannot be engineered or fully understood by technological means. The decline in meaningful romantic relationships exacerbates youth disconnection and overall societal malaise. He observes the challenges that digital dating and activism-induced social divides create for genuine connection, pointing out that reviving science-based understandings of romantic love is crucial for future well-being. Discussing risk, Brooks notes that taking calculated, entrepreneurial risks fosters growth and happiness, with the ultimate risk being the vulnerability of giving one's heart in love and family life. He contrasts this with escapist or destructive risks, such as compulsive gambling. Suffering, while painful, is necessary to experience meaning fully. Brooks advocates embracing suffering as part of life's fullness, echoing religious teachings that the glory of being fully alive includes pain and struggle. Resisting pain multiplies suffering, but acceptance can reduce mental anguish. Brooks explores the Buddhist framing of suffering as pain multiplied by resistance to pain. He explains how non-resistance, a form of acceptance or detachment, can diminish suffering even when pain persists. However, he also recognizes the necessity for discernment and action to alleviate unnecessary pain, balancing acceptance with effort. This nuanced approach resonates with his personal experience managing physical pain and contrasts with prevailing cultural tendencies to avoid discomfort altogether. Gratitude emerges as a powerful antidote to grief and negativity bias innate to human survival instincts. Brooks recounts how expressing gratitude, even amid tragedy, helps sustain hope and healing. He relates this to religious traditions that emphasize thankfulness regardless of circumstance, citing the biblical story of Job as an example of grappling with suffering without abandoning faith or meaning. Practicing gratitude heightens positive affect, balancing the brain's natural negativity bias and fostering resilience. Towards the end of the conversation, Brooks laments the societal drift from thoughtful, respectful dialogue toward viral, emotionally charged soundbites that amplify outrage rather than truth. This shift prioritizes immediate emotional gratification over nuanced understanding, undermining public discourse and increasing polarization. He calls for a renewed commitment to truth and love, acknowledging that while misinformation and misrepresentation are age-old problems, cultivating slow, careful dialogue is essential for long-term social health. Finally, Brooks highlights what he believes is the paramount issue rarely discussed enough: the decline of romantic love and intimate relationships. Describing this as not merely demographic but existential, he stresses that repairing the social fabric requires understanding and nurturing the complex dynamics of love. Without such relationships, society risks losing the core sources of meaning and happiness that sustain human life and culture.